The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, Regional Media, Coastal Broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers. Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your host, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Wildwood, New Jersey, here on 98.7 The Coast. Very happy to be with you this evening. Get ready for an enlightening discussion today or this evening. Our special guest will be Dr. Taj Shotwell. She is professor of business and educational leadership. She's also the author behind Professional Development for Pre-Professionals in All Majors and Careers. Very excited to talk to her. Plus, in the second hour, we'll have Tracy Gregoril. I don't know why I messed that up. I apologize. She's the CEO of G2 Ops with a focus on pathways to successful STEM careers as experienced by women. So excited to talk to her and tell her some interesting stories about being someone who is taught on the STEM platform as a woman. It's a very interesting time. You would think it wouldn't be a big deal because it's 2023, but it is, unfortunately. But before we do that, we'll talk a little bit of news and economy. Google and really all tech, a lot of tech companies are in the news here lately because there's been many job cuts in that area. So it's kind of interesting that we're talking about STEM and women in STEM and what great jobs they are. And they are. It's still a great industry. They were probably overstaffed to begin with. And so one of the things that happened, I think last week I told you about Microsoft cutting 10,000 jobs. Google cut 6% of their jobs, if I'm not mistaken, which is about 12,000 people. But here's the bad thing about Google. So I think that Google's mantra is something like always do good or do no harm or don't be evil, something like that. It's something along those lines. And then at the same time, don't cut my Google off Google, but like they're like so evil as a company. I'm just saying. So one of the and here's Exhibit A. I said that to say here's Exhibit A. So they cut like 12,000 jobs, right? And people are complaining because people who got laid off were complaining because, you know, if you're going to lay people off, you should be nice about it. Like you should be kind. You should have some empathy for that person's situation. What does Google do? A few people didn't find out they were let go until they went to scan their cards and they couldn't get in. Some people were literally in the middle of their workday with a group of people coming back from lunch, coming back from a meeting, and some people scan card wouldn't work and other people's wouldn't. They got an email saying it was very important for everybody to scan in individually. You know, if you work in a big building and everybody's got an ID card that they can scan, if you're in a group, like one person will scan and everybody else will go in. Google told everybody, make sure you don't do that. And you would think, you're not going to think that a company would be so evil as to be that abrupt and impersonal as it's been described as their method. Some people got an email while they were on their way to work saying, by the way, you're not going to be here. It is crazy the way they have treated their employees. And Google's supposed to be a super great place to work, but I guess the theory here is you're not working here anymore, so we don't have to be nice to you. I don't know what the theory is behind why they would do that. You know, why they would treat people like that and not think that it would be super bad PR, if nothing else, that it would not be good PR for the company. And, you know, I was talking to somebody today about, as long as I'm talking about how evil Google is. I was talking to somebody about how if you Google something in one location, let's just say a school, you'll get different results than when you Google it at home. Test it out if you don't believe me. So if you Google, for example, gun control in a school, you will get all these very left-wing, anti-gun results. Whereas if you Google it from your personal IP address, this is not to get in the weeds with the technology, but the way their algorithms work, you will get completely different results. Maybe not completely different, but probably more balanced results. The results are based on your previous history with Google. It's frightening, right? But they know that I lean conservative. They probably know that I'm black. They know that I'm female. They know that I'm middle-aged, like all of these things. And so many of the results that I get back when I use Google for my average searches are going to be catering to that. It's bizarre. So just, I don't know, be careful, Google. And if you got laid off by them, I'm sorry that they treated you that way. Just terrible, 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 terrible. Apparently last night there was a Microsoft outage. Of course, it was overnight for most of us here in the United States. If you use Microsoft Teams or Outlook, apparently there was a huge outage. Why couldn't it happen during the workday? Just saying. But the outage impacted the cloud platform, which is called Azure, for several hours. I miss the old-fashioned desktop Microsoft Office suite personally. I don't love the 365 version of that's all web-based. I just think it's, more dangerous, because it's the web. But that's what Microsoft has been doing. But they had a huge outage overnight. Teams and Outlook took a hit, like I said, and Teams is kind of like Microsoft's version of Zoom, so that took a hit. So I guess people couldn't get their emails, couldn't do team meetings, which is not so bad if you're working. If you're working overnight. They said most customers now have service restored. All my service was restored today. But their shares are down 3.2%, as would be the case if something like that happens with the company, because it speaks to like how well they're taking care of things, whoever's running their technology, like things like that shouldn't happen. And now here's what I heard this on the news and I was like, this didn't happen in China. The only place where Teams wasn't affected, where Microsoft wasn't affected, was in China. And then they just kind of glossed over that. And I'm like, nobody thinks they were hacked? Nobody thinks that might have been a cyber attack? We're not going to talk about that? Okay. And they just didn't talk about it. But it is what it is. Also, one more thing. I read earlier today that people are saying that a recession, economists, a recession might be coming. I'm going to remind you once again that the textbook definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And we have already had that, i.e. we're already in a recession. So stop. Don't let the mainstream media gaslight you is all I'm saying. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your host, Melanie Collette. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
This is important because it's your money. Your money. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie. On 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm about to introduce our first guest, Dr. Taj Shotwell. She is a professor of business and educational leadership and the author behind professional development for pre-professionals in all majors and careers. She's going to talk to us tonight about how to avoid mistakes that successful professionals and celebrities make and end up losing it all simply by, get this, controlling their behavior, image, and spending. A bit about Dr. Shotwell. She's an educator, author, poet, playwright, and a songwriter. She was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, by a career Army sergeant and a singer/homemaker during segregation as the 6th child of 11 children. She got formal education in San Francisco, where she taught business at colleges and universities while working as an accountant. She later joined the faculty at FAMU, where she taught accounting, professional development, and educational leadership courses, and chaired the department before she retired. Dr. Shotwell has written and published nonfiction and fiction books, including a 3-part coming-of-age Memphis-based book based on her life called Middle Child. Dr. Taj is also the founder and president of the upcoming day and boarding school called Business of Arts Academies International for 7th to 12th graders. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Taj Shotwell.
Well, thank you, Melanie. It's such an honor to be here.
It's such an honor to meet you and talk with you. I think this is really an important topic. I think when we think about people who are super successful and they're celebrities and they have it all, how in the world do they mess it up?
Well, they can mess it up in many ways. You want me to go on I'll go on a shorter list.
But I think that we can take a lesson and learn from them, particularly young people. If you are on a trajectory to success, we want to avoid those pitfalls, right? So that we can be successful.
Yes. And, some of the pitfalls can include, their spending, of course, that we're going to talk later, I guess we will, about their having to file bankruptcy. Some have gone to jail for tax fraud and erotic behavior. Some have misused social media and made unpleasant public displays. And others, of course, have succumbed to substance abuse. And, of course, some died broke. So that's just a few things, but very important things that we want to avoid.
It is, and it's very sad when that happens, when you have that kind of opportunity for fame and wealth, and also people are looking up to you, and you find yourself in that position, or onlookers, the public can see that you're in that situation. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, I thought it was interesting that you said controlling your behavior was a very important part of your success, or avoiding pitfalls. And are you referring to self-control, or are you referring to your behavior in general? In what context do you mean controlling your behavior?
Well, we would have to start with self-respect and to be accountable for our behavior. If we can start with that, then we will develop good behavior there. But we should be able to enter into any environment where we could develop the self-confidence to project a positive attitude and a professional image. So those are basically what controls good image, and how you can control your good, develop these images. You must have a very good behavior. And so once you have that good behavior, you will manifest a good image. So that is so important to maintain and control.
Now that makes a lot of sense. As I was doing some research for this particular segment of the show, I ran into an article that talked about how controlling your behavior means that you need to have good self-control. And what I found interesting was a report by some psychologists that talked about how that required avoiding temptations and achieving goals, which makes sense, right? This was really important. The ability to delay gratification and resist unwanted behaviors or urges.
Well, that's what's my main I agree with you, Melanie, there. We must control the urges. And you know what I do every day to control my urge? I say a little prayer that's asking for control and discipline every day for what goes in my mouth and what comes out of my mouth. because what comes in my mouth, it can destroy me, and what comes out can destroy others. So I want to
No, I was going to say that's very
careful.
true. Yes. I have a friend who used to say that words are like bullets. Like you can't
That's
put them back.
so true. And so that is always my little prayer in the morning for discipline. I pray for discipline to control what that little small circle in the middle of your face.
It's a very powerful little circle though.
Yes, it is.
It,
It's small but powerful.
Very true. And if you're a person who likes to talk, which obviously I do, I have a good gig because I get to talk wherever I go. I get to talk. I'm on the radio. I do TV, and I'm a community engagement director. So I I get to talk all the time. If you have a job where you should not be talking, then that's and you like to talk, that's not a good match. That's not a good vocation for you. But even still, if you talk a lot, you have to be even more careful of the things you say. Even have to exercise even more discipline, I would think.
Yes, exactly.
The article that I was reading about self-control said that other terms used for self-control or controlling your behavior are discipline, determination, grit, willpower, and fortitude. And I was like, whoa, it entails all of that. But when do you get to have fun? Just when you're around your friends and there's no cameras.
Hey, cameras are everywhere, so you have to be on the best behavior all the time. Even when you're at home around your children, around your other loved ones, because sometimes how you act at home, it will carry over to the public. And so that's why they say we have to train up our children, because it starts at home. So if it doesn't start at home, then it's left for other people, and that can be a issue at times too.
As a recovering teacher, I could not agree more.
That's right, because they spend more time training than teaching or teaching the subject.
Exactly. You spend more time in discipline, which,
that's it.
there are parents who think that that's okay, who also think that that's our job. It's actually very funny. There was a student, there's a few like that, who just wouldn't obey any rules. Like he just wouldn't. And so I asked him one day, I said, do you have rules at home? I said, what kind of rules do you have at home? This is a high schooler, like 16-year-old kid. And he's like, no, I don't have any rules at home. I do what I want. And I was like, oh, well, that explains a lot.
That's right. And it starts at home. And the parents will love teachers until the teacher disciplined their child. And the first thing they told me when they were on my door, one person had hit my child.
Oh,
and the
goodness.
mother came out and said, oh, my child wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't. And they're ready to defend the child without asking questions or finding out, and I couldn't understand her. I'm just want an adult conversation here with you about your son hitting my daughter, that type of thing. But
yeah, good. Best of luck to you with that.
Oh, she's 50 years old now.
Listen, I've dealt with parents of every age that just don't believe in accountability. And it just speaks to, what we're talking about. If kids don't learn that growing up, and certainly if you haven't learned it by high school, if you haven't learned to control your impulses.
That's right.
To control your emotions.
Yes.
To control your body. All of those things are very important to your overall success as an adult. Not just talking about career and monetary, just overall?
Well, I really believe this generation or this time has confused a lot of people, and they don't. They have this freedom to speak and act, without consequences, and there should be accountability. But a lot of people these days are not accountable for their behavior. They just think, oh, that's just him, or that's just her, or, I'm just fooling, and they move on, but do not understand the effect it can have on them in the future and to other people.
That's exactly right. And I stumbled upon a survey in my research today, and I want to know what you think about it. There was a survey where a question was asked, and the American Psychological Association did this survey. And they asked the question, how important is self-control in your day-to-day life? And 27% of respondents identified a lack of willpower as the primary factor keeping them from reaching their goals. The majority of the people surveyed, which was 71%, believed that self-control can both be learned and strengthened. So it doesn't really make sense, right? If 71% of people believe that, but a lot of people aren't doing it. That's
right. They talk about, but, you have to understand, too, there's a lot of social media out there that the young people are impressed by. So if the media is not giving or sharing the reality of life, instead of the fantasy of life, the young people will come through and pick up maybe the wrong message in life and continue that free spirit of being free and unaccountable. So it's a lot. I really, and you may not like this, I really hold the media responsible for a lot, other than the parents too, but the media responsible for a lot of things, So,
well, I don't disagree with you. I think there's a lot going on in the media, although, and maybe I think differently. I don't know. But whenever I hear like a child who wants to be skinny because she sees IG models, Instagram models who are really skinny, and so that makes her anorexic, I'm like, I don't know. I've never wanted to be. I don't think that I've been influenced by the media that way. Maybe I'm an outlier, but I just look at that stuff as so fake and phony. Yeah. Like, I don't look at celebrities or look at models and say, oh, I want to be. I mean, to me, they don't look healthy. I'm definitely a healthy chick.
The professionals, the celebrities were given the platform, and they have really control, but to hear a 14-year-old begging her mother for a $1,500, $2,000 hair weave or hairpiece, for her hair, because she hasn't learned to love herself, whether she's full or thin or hair is different and things like that. But to hear that's their goal, I'm going to get me those long eyelashes or that long hair. And so because they have not been taught to love themselves, So
and
I think
there's some truth to that, and I think it could be too because they've only been around social media. Like, social media has been around their entire lives.
That's right.
Many of them. So if you don't have anything to compare it to, I guess I could see why you would be so heavily influenced by it.
Yeah.
Because I'm old enough to remember when there was no Facebook. I'm old enough to have had a MySpace account.
Right. Right.
So I guess if you've always been around it, like kids don't know what it's like to have an antenna or have to burn a CD or any of those things, right? So I guess maybe
Yeah.
that's why they. So, but then the parents should intercede, right?
Yes.
And help them understand that that's not real life. And, coincidentally, you brought that up. And one of the things that one of the articles I was reading said about examples of self-control is avoiding social media when you're at work so that it doesn't hurt your productivity.
That's right. I agree with that.
Which it definitely can. I find now what's weird is I do social media for some of the people that I work for, and I very rarely look at my own. Like, I'm so busy with theirs. Like, I run about 6 or 7 other accounts that I tend not to look at mine till the end of the day. But
I see.
yeah, but it's if you're on social media all day long scrolling through, I could see taking a little break for a minute or whatever, and maybe scrolling through and see what's going on. But if you're on, especially like videos, those are the worst, in my opinion.
I agree.
And they will hurt your productivity.
Exactly.
Another example they brought up was skipping sweet treats because you're trying to reduce your sugar intake.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I think, these are examples of self-control, and I think it has to do with your self-image, your health. I mean, let's just be honest. Sugar is generally not good for you. Even if you're thin, a lot of sugar is not good for you. It's not good for your teeth. It's just not good for a lot of things. So it's not good to overdo it. But that takes self-control, right? To not have sweets when you're trying not to. I think the last point I want to talk about, and I'd love you to elaborate on this, is controlling yourself emotionally. I think that's kind of directly connected to controlling your body movements.
Well, controlling yourself emotionally?
Yes.
I've always taught my daughter and my students and anyone who would listen to me is to do not quickly react. Like, go back to the social media. Somebody sends you a unpleasant social media comment or photo. Don't react then. Sit back, think, and think about who this will affect. So who will be harmed by what you say or what you do? And usually, the way things are today, whatever you put on that social media or react emotionally about openly to the public, is going to come back to haunt you.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you need to think first, take a breath, and if that person, they're not writing your check, they're not paying your salary.
Exactly.
They are not living in your house, or so what would they say? Now, I've had experience like that, not on social media because I don't do much social media, but, people who literally lied on me, and I really want to go and sock the person upside the head, right? But of course, I never did that. I had to really think about the importance of what my actions would do, So I didn't react. I walked away.
And that is always the best course of action. We're up against the commercial break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We're on with Dr. Taj Shotwell. We're talking about the importance of controlling your behavior, image, and spending so it will lead you to success. We'll be back on the other side of the break.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today. Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We're on with Taj Shotwell. We're talking about the ability to control your behavior, image, and spending so that you can be a success, not only at work, but also in life. I wanted to move on to the next topic, which is controlling your image, like your public image. And people don't think about the fact that you have a public image, right? Even if you're not a public figure, everybody has a public image at this point. Especially with social media. If you're on social media in any way, shape, or form, you have a public image whether you like it or not. Would you agree with that, Dr. Taj?
Oh, exactly. Your image is so important. So it's very careful what you say and do on that social media. But it's also away from the social media that also includes just the public eye, period. So we will have to be aware of how the public see us, and that could be simply by what we wear in public.
Yes, yes. And people don't think that's a thing, but it is definitely a thing.
You know, these days there's a little bit too much skin for me now.
It's too much skin for me too, ma'am. I am with you. I am with you.
Too much skin. And I don't agree with how certain men approach certain ladies and vice versa about what they have on. But what about self-respect? Because people will misjudge you, and it could cause damages to your career, to you, and to a lot of people. So I think the clothes, that's skin to me, because you know what I find attractive is that the more clothes you have on, the more beautiful you seem to me, because it leaves some imagination. You know, you still can see the curves, you can see the muscles, you can see that you're fit, that you're young, that you're old, or that you're healthy, or whatever. So I just feel that image is so important in being successful in whatever you do.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. And, I used to tell when I was a teacher, and, students used to talk to me about how they thought I was, what's the word? They would call me bougie. They would call me, too, corny because of the way I dress. And I'm like, you mean because everything's covered up? And they're like, yeah, why is everything always covered up? I'm like, because I'm a teacher. Like, what? But I would explain to them, I'm like, you don't have to show everything for a man to be interested in you. You really, really don't. You just don't have to do that.
I say, Melanie, that every 50 years, to me, seems like it's a skin century or something, because look at the 20s when the dress came from the ankles all the way above the knee, right, in the 20s. Okay, so skin starts showing. Then, okay, 50 years later in the 70s, there was the hot pants and the midget was out. Okay, because those were my years. I think, and I wore them too on party night. On party night, I did wear them, but not to work.
Right.
I've always been a very conservative dresser at work. So then here it is now, 50 more years, and I think we're seeing a little bit more skin.
We're seeing a lot more skin, and it seems like people don't have the philosophy. Like they used to say, when you're going to work, you should dress for the next job up. Like that's supposed to be your bar, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever the next promotion is, whatever your goal is, you should be dressing for that job, not for the job you have. You should be dressing for the job you want. And I don't know if parents just aren't teaching this anymore. Like my mom, listen, I'm 52 years old. If I have anything even remotely looking like it's showing, my mama will still tell me about it. Ma'am, what I see stuff and things, and you need to put it all away. What are you doing?
But I love being covered up. I'm older now, but even as young, I love just giving that imagination. My suits were tailored, but they were suits, and I had, I was covered. I call it the Dolly Parton syndrome, because she once said that you never seen her arms out, and you never seen her even when she was young, because I grew up with Dolly Parton.
Oh, you're right though. I never thought about that, but I mean, considering the way she's shaped, she's usually pretty conservatively dressed.
That's right, and she says she does not, and I have always lived with that. When she said that, I have always been conservative, and my sisters and brothers notice it. You are always covered. I said, I like it that way.
I got that. I get that from mostly gentlemen. One guy asked me if I had scars or tattoos, and I said, what? I said, what? Why? He said, because there's lots of pictures of you on social media, but you're always covered up. And I was like, no, I have self-respect. That would be no scars or tattoos, but
thank you.
With self-respect.
They can look at you. You see, what does it take to look at you and know you're beautiful? You're beautiful, and you're shapely. So why do they need to look at the skin to figure that out?
They don't, and this is just a very important point, and I used to tell teenagers, especially teenage girls, like, ladies, and this is really your brand. I'm like, your reputation is all that you have. Like that, you need to protect your reputation with your life. And it's the same as your personal brand. And to your point, how you dress, very important. That's your brand. How you appear on social media, how you appear to others, how you speak, and your self-control and your behavior. All of that's your personal brand.
Amen. I agree with that.
So now I think this is Money Talk with Melanie, and this is probably the real point that you want to talk about is how to master your personal budget, how to have self-control when it comes to your spending. So difficult.
It is so difficult. Especially, I grew up with a father who always budgeted because he had 11 children, right? And so I always knew the financial control. I always had the financial control. But keep in mind that, let's say you've gone and you found a job, the job that you love, and it's going to pay you $1 million. So I would ask you, how are you going to spend this? And you probably will come back, inexperience. You're going to say, I'm going to buy my mother a house, and I'm going to buy me a diamond ring, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, So I would say, okay, after all the feedback, I would say, okay, let's take it. There are 5 major things you should consider before you spend one penny. Okay. And as you know, Melanie, income taxes for 2023 for $1 million is up in the tax rate of 37% now.
Which is ridiculous, but
Right.
I mean, and you know, the government will tell you with a straight face, well, because you make more, you have to pay more. It's like, wait a minute.
Right. And keep in mind, there are at least 8 other states that charge state income taxes. So it could be high as 5%, which now that's 42% is not yours. It's gone now.
And there's a municipal tax too, depending on where you live. There's a city tax.
Yes. Yes. So they're right now at let's just say 42%. So of course they can get some of this back if they have taxable deductions, you know, against their business or the related, expenses, deductible. So they may get a % or so back. However, they also have to consider affiliation fees, I call. Anybody who have helped you get where you're going. Did you have a manager? Did you have an agent? Did you have a publicist? Are you paying union dues? Is this a recertification process? Do you have to be recertified? So you need to pay all of those. So make sure that. The third thing is, why spend before you pay any outstanding debts you have? You need to pay them off before you start just spending on luxury items or things, you know.
Yeah, I don't think people look at it that way anymore. I used to teach financial literacy in particular, and just the basic 50-20-30 rule, people are not familiar with or don't. And you may think you're doing it, but when you actually run the numbers, you're like, I am not doing it. And, you know, part of it is, 20% is supposed to go to your savings and other spending goals. Yeah. I thought I was saving 20%, but when I did the math, I was not. I was saving more like 13 instead of 20.
At least you're saving. Some are not.
Some people are not saving at all. And some people, they think they can afford a house or afford a car. You're only supposed to be spending 50% of your salary on your essentials. That's your mortgage, your utilities, your groceries, all of that. 50% of your salary goes to that.
That's right.
20% saving, and then 30% on your discretionary spending.
Oh, yes, I agree.
And a lot of people don't know that rule. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the other thing is, after you've paid those debts that you should have paid before you spend any of this $1 million you think you have, pay off those debts. But you should also think about job security. Is this a one-time event? Is it will you be getting another $1 million next week, or is it a regular job? You know, you have to investigate the job security. And the final thing I have here is, why are you spending? Ask yourself, why are you spending? Is it necessary, or is it something you want? Now, if it's necessary, now you're living on the street and you got to have a roof over your head, yes, you need to spend it. Spend something to get the roof over your head. But if it's just something you want, like a brand new car or something, I suggest, if you have any money left out of this $1 million, put it aside and explore other opportunities as far as your job security and other issues before spending any of this money on just pleasure items. Or I call them boy toys and girl toys.
Well, to what you're speaking of, that's why many lottery winners and people who get these big sports contracts and things like that end up broke, because they're spending, and they're not being forward-looking about their debt and about their futures.
That's right. And so if they just keep in mind these 5 things, they will never overspend. They will have money available, and they can feel more secure in what they're doing if they have that cushion they could rely on. So please don't spend until you have done at least 5 of these things.
And that doesn't matter how much money you have either.
That's right.
So what are the 5 things?
The 5th thing, that was the 5th thing.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, and that is just very important. And you can be a millionaire and still broke, and you can be a thousandaire and be wealthy.
That's true. Now you can be a hundredaire like me,
right?
And be happy.
Absolutely, and be perfectly happy. But you have to control all 3 areas of your life to be successful professionally and also in life. You need to cover all 3 of those areas, and I'm so glad that you pointed those areas out as far as being successful, and pointed out how people who have been, shot like a rocket to be successful ended up succumbing to things like substance abuse, to unpleasant public displays. But I was thinking about that, and I think there's enough people that get rewarded for bad behavior that's part of the reason why other people try it. Not enough. I think those people are outliers. I was sharing with someone last night about I'm involved in politics on the side, and I was telling them about a state senator. I forget what state she's from. I had said Idaho, and that was not right. Rhode Island. Who, for her re-election campaign, did a twerk video in a bathing suit on a beach.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And so the person asked me, did she get reelected? Right? Uh-huh. And I was like, you know what? I actually have no idea. Here's the thing. So I Google her, right? Trying to find out if she got reelected. And all I saw was her name, which I can't remember right now. Her name and twerk video. 2 pages of Google hits about the elected official that did a twerk video. I could only find 1 hit about the fact that she was a sitting state senator, which in my mind is a much better and bigger accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And instead, all you're known for when your name is Googled is your twerk video.
That's true. And they won't take her seriously about when she really needs the public.
But you know what, though? She got reelected.
To
my point, she got reelected in Rhode Island. I don't know what's going on in Rhode Island, but she got...
Oh, my goodness.
But her district reelected her, no lie.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I couldn't believe it.
Oh, no,
but
no.
I went through like 3 pages until I could find out whether or not she got reelected, and she did. We're up against the close of the hour. You're listening to Taj Shotwell. Where can we get any of your books, ma'am?
Well, I'm on Amazon, the professional development. If you put in Amazon Taj Shotwell books, and you'll have a list of all my books, but my professional development book will be there also.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show. You have a great night.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today. The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, regional media, coastal broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers. Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
This is important because it's your money. Your money. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We are at the beginning of the 8 o'clock hour. If you missed the first hour, 7 p.m., we talked with Dr. Taj Shotwell, and she talked to us about the importance of managing your behavior, your image, and your finances so that you don't face pitfalls on your way to success. She has a book coming out called Professional Development for Pre-Professionals in All Majors and Careers. And she has some really good advice about how you can avoid things that will keep you from reaching your goals. We talked a lot about self-control and just in all areas of your life, including your image, your physical image, how you dress, how you carry yourself, your social media image, of course, and just how you talk and how you react to things and how it affects your life as a professional and as a person. It was a pretty good hour. If you missed it, you're going to want to catch Money Talk with Melanie as a podcast in another few days on 98.7 The Coast website or anywhere that you enjoy your podcasts. It's going to be a very good thing. Also, if you like, you can also follow me on social media at Money Talk Mel or at Money Talk with Melanie on Facebook. You can find information there. If you like to follow my political musings, if you dare, you can follow me at NJGOP Diva. It does happen. I mean, it's a frightening place, but you can follow me on Twitter there if you like. Before we go into introduce our second guest, who is Tracy Gregoril. She's the CEO of G2 Ops with a focus on pathways to successful STEM careers as experienced by women. And I'm not a huge feminist. You might be like, wow, is she a feminist? Why is she saying as experienced by women? But even though I'm a traditional person, I believe in the patriarchy. Don't throw tomatoes at the radio, but I do. I'm good with the patriarchy. I really am. I'm not taking out trash and lifting heavy stuff and opening jars. Like, come on. But I digress. But women do experience things differently, and STEM careers is one area that women can be very successful, but they tend not to, and you do experience that area or that profession quite differently. So we'll talk to Tracy Gregoril about that in a couple minutes, but before we do, we're going to talk about setting financial boundaries. I ran across this article, and believe it or not, the Wisconsin Journal, kind of a bizarre kind of place to find an article, but I subscribe to a lot of different articles and a lot of different places, and I found this article, and I really liked it. So it said that you should be very deliberate about setting boundaries in order to reach your financial goal. So I think it's very important to make sure that you do that. So how can you set healthy boundaries? One thing to do is you want to be, when people ask you for money, like you want to be nice, right? And especially if somebody maybe doesn't do as well as you do financially, like you have more money. But believe it or not, sometimes those people kind of expect you to provide for them because you have more money. And that's not okay. It's not really fair. And if you have your own financial goals that you're trying to achieve, that will keep you from reaching your financial goals. Perhaps they need help with budgeting, with, keeping a healthy situation in their own life. And if they're always borrowing, quote unquote, money from you, how are you ever going to get that money back and reach your own goals? So I'm not saying never loan money to people, but you need to really think about, okay, how is this person, and they shouldn't be offended, in my opinion. If you ask them about, okay, what's your plan for paying me back? If they went to a bank, they would ask them the same question. And not only would they ask them the same question, they wouldn't rely on their verbal answer. They would do some kind of background check to see if they're able to pay back the money. So if you're loaning money to somebody, ask them about how they're going to pay it back. What's the plan? What is their situation? That's the least they can do. Some people, and this is why you have to set boundaries, really don't intend on paying you back. I hate to say it, but it's just the truth. Be honest about your feelings, about lending money, about your attachment to money, how you feel about money. This is particularly so with couples. One of the leading causes of divorce are arguments over money. If you are a saver and you're married to a spender, you guys are going to have some really good communication in order to make sure that money doesn't cause you fights. So be careful and make sure that you are setting some healthy boundaries where that's concerned. Ask yourself the right questions. What are the right questions? In cases where you really want to say no, but you're afraid to do so, ask yourself this: why am I hesitant about saying no? Why are you hesitating? Maybe you should be saying no. Maybe that's why you're hesitant. Once you can answer that question with brutal honesty within yourself, once you can do that, then you'll probably understand that you're worried about a couple things. You're worried that that person is going to be mad at you because they're going to think that you're selfish because you don't want to lend them the money. You're worried about hurting that person's feelings, very possible. Or you're worrying about if you say no, that person is going to reject you in some way, or there's going to be other repercussions, which are realistic worries. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have those boundaries in place, have it clear in your mind that you have to set healthy limits when it comes to relationships, but especially in regard to your money. Another thing that you can do, that you want to make sure that you can do, if you really want to help that person, you ever hear the phrase, it's very old, give a man a fish or teach a man a fish? If you give a man a fish, they'll eat for a day, they'll eat forever if you teach them to fish. It's the same thing with loaning people money in their financial situations. Maybe you can help that person manage their money better so that they can be like you and have money available to lend to them. You should look at that family member's situation realistically when you're considering whether or not to loan that person money. Like, why is that person looking to you for help and not going to a bank, not using a credit card? Is that because other people have rejected them? That reflects usually a poor record of getting paid back. Now, I know one person, I heard this somewhere, can't remember where or who said it, but this is kind of my rule for lending money, is don't lend money that you can't afford to lose. That's my rule. Anytime I lend somebody money, I consider it a gift. If I get it back, fantastic. Now, I don't want a lot of people in my DMs talking about, can I get $50? Don't do that. But because I have healthy boundaries, I'm probably not going to give it to you. It's money that I don't want to lose. I'm just saying. But no, seriously, don't lend money that you can't lose. Like, don't lend out your mortgage money. You're literally gambling. Don't do something like that. There is a very short list of people that I would lend money to, and that is having a healthy boundary. Just think about that. Think carefully about that. I thought that was a really good article, and probably somebody out there needs to hear it. Now, there was something that I thought was funny, but not funny. Because of inflation, I ran into this article that talked about how the cost of living has skyrocketed, which it certainly has, particularly with inflation, and that nearly 1 in 3 adults rely on their parents for financial support. I'm not surprised because I see parents paying for their kids all kinds of stuff. Easy Pass, cell phones, car insurance. And I'm like, that kid is in their 20s. Like, what's happening? I don't understand what's happening. They're in their 20s. And you know, I think it's kind of connected to the helicopter parenting thing, because my philosophy is, when are they going to learn to pay it if you keep paying it? Like, I don't, like, if stuff is that, well, I don't want them to struggle, and I don't want things to be tight. I'm like, well, that's part of, like, the being young experience, in my opinion. Like, being a struggling college kid is part of the experience. Having your first car be a beater that needs repairs, that's part of the experience. And then when you save up enough and you work hard enough, you can buy yourself a new car. To me, that's all part of the growing experience. So I'm just saying, stop paying for your kids' stuff. You're enabling. I feel like I've said that before, but the cost of living is super high these days. It just really is. And one article said that, we're talking about nearly a third of millennials are turning to their parents for financial support. And the parents who are supporting grown children can be a burden when their own financial security is at stake. That's exactly right. Because, like, parents are not independently wealthy while they're supporting their kids financially. Just saying. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. When we come back, we'll have Tracy Gregoril.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today. Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest this hour is Tracy Gregoril. She is the CEO of G2 Ops, an IT engineering and cybersecurity company serving the U.S. Navy, government, and commercial enterprises. Her wide-ranging experiences include software engineer for the Navy, analyst for a cable broadcast network, running enrollment management for an online university, and running a certified woman-owned firm recognized 5 years straight by Inc. 5000 as one of our country's fastest-growing small businesses. She chairs the cybersecurity committee of the Virginia Ship Repair Association and served on the executive committee of the Virginia Commonwealth Cyber Initiative. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Tracy Gregoril.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Nice to be here.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing great.
Great. I'm so excited to have you and talk about this particular topic because I think it is just needed. It's very difficult, I think, to get some girls, young people, and women into the technology sector.
It is.
And so before we even dig in, let's talk to the audience about what we mean when we say STEM. I think we hear that acronym thrown around a lot, and not everybody knows what STEM is.
Right. It's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So, it could be any range of careers or interests, math, medical, dental, scientists, so many things. A lot of it revolves around math, chemistry, physics, things that women do tend to shy away from a little bit.
Yeah, so, which is kind of wild when you think about it, because I feel like it's stuff we're good at.
Exactly.
Like in general, like you need to use a lot of math and science and caregiving and things of that nature, things that are considered quote unquote, women's jobs. Like if you don't know what two chemicals not to mix when cleaning a bathtub, you're gonna have a big problem.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like that.
Yeah.
That is science. Like we use science everywhere.
We do.
So,
we do.
Women should not be intimidated by those areas of academia or profession, in my opinion.
I agree. And, I was asked to speak a few months ago about women in STEM, and I did some research and found out that, how few women are in the field. It hasn't gotten any better over the years. And, this country needs men and women in STEM. We're desperate because of the type of careers and, requirements at companies nowadays, especially around technology. So we've got to do something to turn it around a little bit.
And that's for sure. And there's lots of wonderful social media pages that you can follow that focus on women in STEM, girls who code, Black girls who code, women in coding. Like there's all kinds of things that you can look up and see that there are women doing it. I was teaching, one of the things that I used to teach when I was a teacher is computer applications, and I've taught it as an adjunct professor. I taught a class called Computing Environments, and one day I'm sitting outside the classroom, there's another class finishing up, and I'm just kind of chilling with my students. And the professor comes out, and I say, "Oh, go ahead and leave the door open." So the professor says, "Well, we usually keep it locked until the professor gets here." And I started laughing.
Oh my goodness.
I know, right? And I started laughing,
Right.
and I said, "Yep, so that would be me." And he was like, "Oh my gosh." He literally says, "Usually it's a white male that's teaching in this department, so it just didn't occur to me." And he walked away, and I was like, "Yo." That was not okay. But I looked at my students and I said, "This is why we need more women in STEM. This is exactly why."
Right. And I also, in this research, I found the women that are entering STEM, many of them leave the workforce. It's like I found it was over like 52%. So that's why I was, excited to be invited to your show. I'm trying to talk about it a little bit more. And figure out why women are leaving, because once we get them there, we need them.
Right,
we need
exactly.
To keep them there.
So what first interested you in a STEM career?
So it really stems back. My father was in technology early. He worked for the Naval Safety Center, which is now Safety Command. I'm in Virginia, in Norfolk, near the largest naval base. And being around computers and databases, how to make flying safer. They analyzed every little thing. And then I was one of those that had that great high school teacher who said, "Hey, we got new computers in. Do you want to try out computer programming?" And I got hooked early. So
really,
I was lucky.
If you like puzzles, computer programming is fun. I mean,
it is.
It just is. If you like puzzles, I actually taught computer programming for 3 years, and a little secret, knew nothing about computer programming. I taught myself to code. Like it's, I did, and taught it for 3 years. It was fun. I like puzzles. I mean, I'm old enough to remember like GW Basic and Fortran and COBOL and all that. Like when computers were like the hot thing in school.
Right.
And I really just like reached back 30 years and drew upon that knowledge and taught myself how to code, and it worked out fine.
Yeah, I loved it. So I think that's one of the things I like doing is delivering great products to customers, and then seeing them use it. So for
sure,
that brings me a lot of joy.
So, what kind of different jobs have you had?
So, right out of college, I did computer programming, software development. I worked for a defense contractor right out of school.
Oh, really?
Weapon systems. Yes. Yeah. Just entry level, but they teach you, they mix you in with veterans that understand, why and how, but someone has to make the equipment work. I did that for a few years, and then I, went to the private sector. My intro, I went and worked in cable television, but in the IT department. TV is very technology heavy, inserting commercials, that's how they make their money. Selling time, keeping track of all that. And then I did go work for a university who wanted to bring online education globally. And this was in the year 2001. So that was very early. Now everything's online, but back then it was not. So I was on the forefront of that. Using the internet and, to deliver technology. And then for the last 10 years, I've been CEO of this defense contracting firm, and it's focusing on systems engineering and helping manage complex IT networks, whether they're communication networks or weapon systems. Everything's computerized nowadays.
Everything
and to manage
is.
that complexity, that complexity, you need big databases and analytics and things.
I'm sure you heard about the Microsoft going down overnight. I'm sure you heard about that outage, right? And this is kind of off topic, but I always want to talk to it's not even kind of off topic. It's like super off topic, but but I feel like you have an opinion on this.
No, I did not. I got up early today.
Oh, and you didn't hear that?
After meeting. No, I just haven't been able to delve into it.
Okay.
What it was, I had a lunch meeting, and
listen,
but
you
I don't know
even
if it was cyber related or not.
I had 3 meetings and a dinner and this show tonight. I feel you. I feel your pain.
Right.
I totally feel your pain.
I was using Microsoft all day throughout the day, I never had an issue.
It was an overnight outage, but what I found curious is, they said it was overnight for the United States, I guess our part, here on the East Coast, and whoever is on our time frame, it was an overnight outage. But what I found curious...
They blamed it on the networking. Go ahead.
Yeah, they did. But they also said that the outage didn't happen in China, which I was like, wait, what? Why? Mm-hmm. Why didn't it? And nobody, what I thought was funny about it, the media, never delved into that. They were like, oh, it just didn't happen in China. And just kept going. And I was like, I feel like we should ask them why.
I know. And I don't know if they'll tell us. Well, just was it last week that all those airplanes got grounded?
Yes.
The FAA? And we still haven't heard.
And did you hear that it happened in Canada as well?
Yes.
So
I mean...
Yeah. And they're just
like... We're a cybersecurity company, so that's what always comes to my mind. Something happened.
Yeah. So. Do you think... there's...
Well, and it may take them a while to find out. It could have been something internal, something on purpose.
Well, in the United States, they said that it was as simple as someone uploading the wrong database or a database that had a glitch in it or they always, really dumb it down and don't use computer speak in the media. So who knows, and then some people call a major mess up a computer glitch, and it just isn't. It's just something completely different. But they'll say it was a computer glitch.
Right. It's usually a human. You know that.
Well, and listen, when I talk computers, I would usually tell my students, I'm like, computers don't mess up, humans do. And
Right.
even if the computer messed up, like your app isn't working or something like that, some programmer messed up. So like my rule still
Right.
stands.
Mm-hmm.
The computers don't make mistakes. That is people making mistakes, for
That's
sure.
right.
For absolutely sure. And you know, I explained to my students updates and bugs. I said, have you ever actually read what comes with an update? Like they'll give you a little blurb about what the update is. And you're like, no. I'm like, well, if you have an iPhone, I'm sure they do it on Samsung too. If you look at the update, it explains what they're doing. This is especially when I taught programming.
Right.
I said, you will almost always see bug fixes.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you know why? Because it is nearly impossible to write a perfect program. So there's going to be bugs. So, you know, I kind of wanted to encourage them so that when they were messing up or their program wasn't working, that like even your professionals are
Right.
have bugs. That's why you get those updates and it says bug fixes. Because they're fixing the bugs from the last iteration of that program.
Right.
What important skills do you think that you need to have in order to work in STEM or to have a profession in STEM?
Well, as you know, a lot of attention to detail. You had already mentioned that at the beginning. You have to be proactive. I mean, things change so much in technology and science, new discoveries, things like that. So you have to enjoy that, keeping up, going to conferences, reading, to stay on the top of your game. So, I mean, the way to be successful in any career is to enjoy it.
Yes.
So, but those are the key components. And I guess it depends on which area, if it's biology, or if you're interested in, the climate or the environment, there's a lot to all of them. So a lot of studying, discipline.
Yes.
Probably a lot of certifications you may need. So, that having that type of personality that you're driven and enjoy that, that pressure.
Yes. And that is a little bit of pressure. Now, I think that one of the people are going to hate to hear me say this. I feel like now when you talk about different fields and you use the phrase like diversity, equity, and inclusion, I feel like it now has like a bad connotation because you go into these professional developments and people basically tell you how terrible you are. And I think it's like the patriarchy. I like the patriarchy, but I think it's being represented poorly by a lot of people. And I feel the same way about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't think it's bad in and of itself, but I think it's being misrepresented and abused by a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people don't like it. So you want to have diversity of thought, people from different cultures, I would imagine, in your business and in the workforce. Are there any special techniques that you use or any approach that you have to getting people from different backgrounds to work with you or work with your company?
Yeah, we try to find the best people, best players. I call them A players. And we don't have any programs. We don't look for certain things. We post jobs, LinkedIn, Indeed, all those places. We want referrals. And we have found we have a very diverse company. So we're at 140 people now and I think it's because we don't have a program. We're looking for the best people. We're, no matter what.
And I tend to agree with you. I think that it would happen organically if you just looked for the best people. And that you don't necessarily need And that's the thing. So when you do diversity, equity, and inclusion, right, it, in my opinion, assumes that if you didn't, that people from diverse backgrounds wouldn't be able to get those positions, which is literally the reverse of the message of what the message is supposed to be. Like if I came here to the radio station and they were like, yeah, we were really looking for a black female host, I would be like, excuse you. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
So, if you were looking for someone who was good, who can engage with the audience, whatever, that's one thing. And I also happen to be a black woman. Okay.
Right.
But like, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I have not worked for an employer that set out, I need to make some changes. Let's go hire, this type of person. I've been very fortunate.
You have been.
Let's work. And I see those employers and I'm like, wow, you're really limiting the success of your company when you do that too, because you might miss some quality people. But I don't know. I think we're very diverse. We have every, race, color, religion.
Right. And culture. And I think also where the DEI situation gets mixed up is people go by color instead of culture. And I use this example all the time. I grew up in this very small place called Cape May County, New Jersey. It's in a peninsula of New Jersey. It's South Jersey. My cultural experience as a black person is different than someone who grew up on the south side of Chicago, for example.
Right.
Different cultures. So you can't just check a box and say, okay, I'm hiring Melanie for this, and now we have a black person and we know what her culture is. You don't. You still don't. You can't make that assumption. You can't assume what's being brought to the table based on the color of someone's skin. So, I was interested to hear what kind of methods you guys use, but I like you just look for the best and the brightest, and you got it.
Right. And we go into it with blinders. We pre-screen. We have a recruiting team that, here's the job, here's the expectation, whether you're going to be in the office, you have to have a clearance, is there any reason you wouldn't? So we pre-screen heavily, and then we observe the candidate throughout the process, how they talk to the recruiter, right? Do they show up for their interview on time? If there's any issues along the way or red flags go up, then they're, we may move them out of the process a little quicker. So they don't realize that everything they do is part of their interview with us.
They should, though. Why would listen? These are the children. The children, the younger people. I'm middle aged. I feel like we know this stuff. If you're in a certain age bracket, you know that everything you do is it could be a demerit or it could be a plus in the process.
Right.
And so you should pay attention to that. You should pay attention to what you have on. Pay attention to how you speak. Pay attention to your manners. All of those things you need to pay attention to.
Right. Some people don't. So
a lot of people don't.
Yeah. We'll glance at our recruiting team will, glance at social media. A lot of people have things marked private, but, because we're trying to see, is this someone who, our team will want to work with? So, it's resulted.
Can you elaborate on what kinds of things are red flags for social media? Because I feel like I've been preaching this for years, especially when I was a high school teacher, and they just didn't listen to me. Some of my former students are friends with me on social media, and I will DM them and say, you need to take that foolishness down. I taught you better than that. What are you doing? I know, Miss Colette, I'm going to take it down. Okay. So what kinds of things are you guys looking for?
Well, we all have done things, in college,
Not me.
but
Perfect. All my posts are pristine. Never, ever.
but I mean, but it was limited to a group of friends, or if you were in a sorority, but limited. Now, and every time I talk to a high school group, it's like, watch what you put on social media. It lives forever.
Yes.
And it's not really even the pictures. It's maybe comments or the way they interact with other people,
Oh,
So,
that's interesting.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now that is very interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let that marinate for a second. I always thought that it was the posts that people were looking at, but how people interact with others is very important.
Right. So, what types of things, that are interesting and stuff. So, like I said, we don't we'll glance at it. It's part of the, review, but just to get to know them a little bit better. So.
Oh, that makes a lot of I used to explain to classes that some companies have programs that will give you a social media score. Like like how much profanity, sexual explicit content, all kinds of stuff that you have. Like they'll literally just put your social media in a program and give you a score. So you have to be really careful.
Right, you do. I know. Sometimes we even want to react to something we see, and I'm like, I tell my husband, don't type it.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
So,
it's tough.
I know.
Keep scrolling. Just keep scrolling. Gotta scroll.
I know.
But it's hard, especially with, more and more politics and social issues and things like that being kind of hashed out on social media. It's difficult. And you really, I think you have to keep the conversation respectful, but people really have difficulty with that. Mm-hmm. They're really struggling. Mm-hmm. People are struggling out there with doing that. So you said that you have like a process with how you hire people. Is yours unique? Is it to how compared to how other people hire? Like, do you just do the resume, you pick up their resume, invite them to an interview, then maybe a second interview, and then you hire them? Or is your process a bit different?
No, I think that's typical. We like referrals. We give our employees, bonus. We like, if it's someone their work ethic and that sort of thing. That means that is high value to us. So we're willing to pay for referrals and everything. We also, it's funny, observe people in other areas. So we've hired people. I met a young lady. She was a waitress in a restaurant. Just her work ethic. One my husband and I went to, work ethic, bustling around, picking up things, taking care of her. And one day we got talking to her, and she was a senior in a business program and interested in HR. And we said, oh, would you be interested in interning? We're looking at expanding our department. And she came, and now she's our director.
Really?
And we were in Best Buy this Sunday buying a new iPad. We met this young man. He was in line ahead of us, waiting for, someone to wait on him. And, I'm in IT procurement. We were talking, and he's coming in Friday.
Really?
So
now, do you kind of go by your gut a little bit too when you meet these people?
Yeah, because I'm just older, different. I've worked in different verticals, hired a lot of people, so I do have I think I do a good gut. But so we've met people through other people. That's been beneficial to us too. But as far as the process, everybody's got to go through it, the vetting and making sure they have the right credentials.
Yes. And now, does that require specific certifications? Do you require everybody to have a college degree? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the position. We have, some people out of the military, that were in the enlisted, don't have a degree, but they have good background in what we need.
Sure.
What are the requirements of our customer? Some work, because of contracts we bid on, they do want, certain degrees for certain positions. But no, we're open to, most people have a degree at our company. It's a engineering firm, but
Sure.
We are open to others that have gone through School of Hard Knocks or in the process of working on their degree. So we keep our options open.
And, I think that's a good mindset to have as a leader. I mean, I'm sure if you've been around, lots of people with degrees, you've probably been around some serious dummies who have degrees and some really smart people who don't.
Right.
I mean, I know that I find that to be the case, especially in academia. I'm like, who the dumbest people I've ever met are PhDs.
Right.
I'm like, all that means is that you know how to write and you know how to research, which is not does not necessarily mean you're smart. I'm just saying, it just doesn't. So, not that I don't appreciate my people with PhDs. I do. I have a few PhD credits myself. I plan on finishing that someday. But I mean, you shouldn't go around thinking that you're the smartest person in the room just because of that, because you're probably not. Just saying.
Right.
So if somebody has a daughter who is thinking about STEM and is kind of shy about it or nervous, do you have any advice for parents whose kids might want to, or maybe a young person who's in community college right now, doesn't know what they want to do, in a major that they don't particularly like and might want to change? What kind of advice would you give those people?
I guess for the parents, it would be, somebody to mentor them or talk to them. We have, men at work that have daughters, and they're like, my daughter, is interested, but, it's geeks or nerds, you still hear that word, about some of the, young men and in some of the clubs. So I think probably finding them a mentor or, someone in whatever field, the parent is in, even if they're not in STEM, there's probably something STEM related in their company. Everyone has an IT department now, and
true.
So,
but I used to tell girl students, like, ladies, where do you think the boys are? Hello, they're in this.
I know. That's why I enjoyed my career.
I mean, you upped your odds significantly. Am I wrong? Your classes are what, like 5 women to 25 dudes?
Oh yeah. So yeah, no, it's just it never bothered me. So
all I'm saying, I mean, you could date the athlete, you could, but or you could date the next Steve Jobs. Up to you, ladies. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
All I'm saying.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah. Just think about it. You could build the next Amazon.
Right.
So what other advice would you give them? Having a mentor?
Yeah, or just, introducing them to other women. You might have to seek them out, just have them talk to it. I was actually talking to a employee today. He had a freshman in high school, and I told him that locally there's a Society for Women Engineers club in high schools now.
Oh, that's great.
So it used to just be in college. So, seek some of those opportunities out. Of course,
sure.
The internet, there's a lot of research. I have to tell you, my father, honestly, he pulled out Bureau of Labor Statistics and showed me the upside of majoring in computer science. The growth potential.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, now speaking of that, I talked about last week on the show. I talked about Microsoft laying off 10,000 people. This week during my open, I talked about Google. They laid off 12,000 people. And I mostly just really bashed Google about the shady way that the way that they did it. That was just terrible.
Right.
like just locking people out of their, with their swipe cards. Like, come on, just be better. Like, just do better. But, I'm wondering if people are looking at the tech industry kind of sideways now because, Amazon's laying off, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, is laying people off, Google, Microsoft. Should people be looking in other places and not STEM right now, or would you still encourage a career in STEM?
Oh, no, definitely. This is just my opinion. I looked into this a little. Those companies are still hiring, okay? Computer programmers, engineers, system administrators, cloud specialists, whatever. I think this is just my opinion, but I think when you get successful, making a lot of money, profit, the Amazons, the Facebook, Microsoft, they had great runs the last few years. You tend to hire for, I've got some good ideas. Let me hire. Let me add a team. Let me add some of these fluff positions, I call them.
Yeah.
And when things tighten up, like they have now, corporations aren't spending as much. That's affecting Microsoft. People aren't buying as much, so that's affecting Facebook and their ads. They have to, look around and go, I probably don't really need some of these positions.
And that makes sense. And that's what I said, too, in my open, that they probably had too many people to begin with.
Yeah. Because when you're, when things are going good, it's just like your own budget. If things are going good in your home, maybe I'll buy a new car instead of a used car,
Right.
And, maybe I'll replace something. Maybe it didn't actually need replacing, but, if you have that extra income. So I think companies tend to get a little, fluffy or, excited about some new initiatives. And then they're like, that hasn't panned out. Let me go ahead and cut my losses.
Yeah.
So,
that's probably, there's probably some truth to that. I just, and I think during COVID in particular, they experienced kind of a windfall, right? Because everybody was using technology. People who were not interested in technology was like, I need technology now, right? And so they started with the remote, working and learning and all of that.
And then with all this cloud technology, so many things going to the cloud, the Amazon Web Services, the Microsoft Azure, they are getting huge, and they are hiring a lot of people. So, I mean, it's frightening how much is going to those companies. People are closing their data centers and moving, all of their computing into those clouds. Environment.
Is the cybersecurity and U.S. defense are they growing as well? Because I'm a big fan of the cloud. I mean, I stepped on during undergrad. I stepped on on one of those little, I forget what you call them now, those USB sticks, and lost like half my data because I stepped on it. So I'm a huge fan of the cloud because I don't have to worry about that because everything's in the cloud. But how secure is the cloud? I just hope the areas of cybersecurity are growing as quickly as we are using the cloud. I hope the government, dare I say it, that the government is doing their due diligence in that area.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, you're hoping they do their job, the Amazon and Microsoft. But I know for Department of Defense, the Amazon cloud, the Microsoft cloud, they're separate from the commercial cloud.
Oh, well, that's good.
They're separated. Some of them you can only connect to them from a Department of Defense facility. So, but then who are the people running all the servers? If it's defense, they have to be in the servers have to be in the United States. So so, the DOD puts on some regulations, but you're right. You are turning over a lot of the responsibility of security to, these private companies or public companies, but non-government.
Right,
entities.
but they kind of own your stuff. Like
They do.
like Google
They do.
used to literally have it. I don't think it's in there anymore, but used to literally have it in their contract. It like, by the way, all that stuff you're putting in there, we own that all now. Like we,
Right.
and that's problematic.
It is.
So
is.
that's my like I said, I'm a big fan of the cloud, but I do in the back of my mind certainly worry about an enemy of the United States commandeering our cloud, and it's everything, right? Our banking, our schooling, our medical, it's everything.
Yeah, and they use what's called segmentation. Especially in the finance industry. So if something is attacked or compromised, it's limited, so.
They can mitigate the damage, I hope.
Yeah, they can mitigate it.
So how does one reach out to your company and find out more about what you guys do there?
Well, our website, g2-ops.com, is the best place. And then we're very active on LinkedIn. So
you're the second guest who's told me that in 2 weeks. It says LinkedIn's a place to be here lately.
It is. We use it. Mm-hmm,
no, go ahead.
To attract customers and potential candidates for the company. So.
Oh, I like it a lot. And are you on Twitter? Any kind of? I saw your company's on Twitter. You are not, but your company is.
I use Twitter. I read Twitter. I know Elon Musk's trying to get everybody active. I have a Twitter. Mine's Tracy Gregoril. My LinkedIn's Tracy Gregoril. So I got in early.
Yes, and your company tweets as well, right?
Yes.
Yep,
yes.
I did see
Not
that.
as much. LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, that is the place to
primarily.
be for all things business, for sure. I really appreciate you being on the show this evening. I encourage girls, women, you want a career change?
Yes.
Look into STEM. It is not a bad deal. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
have a great night.
Money
Right,
Talk
bye.
with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'd like to thank my guests, Dr. Taj Shotwell and Tracy Gregoril did a great job as my guests this evening. I, of course, want to thank the one and only Eva Rosenberg. Do check out her website at irsexams.school and change your career today. I want to thank Mark for running the board. And I want to, of course, thank you, the listeners, for listening to Money Talk with Melanie this evening. If you're listening to it as a podcast, of course, I thank you very much for the download and hope that you very much enjoyed the show. Remember to tune in to Money Talk with Melanie next week as Dr. Gleb Tursky examines the risky business of Sam Bankman-Fried's approach, and Kathy Guzman-Galloway is going to share her insight on how to create a strong brand identity using purpose, mission, and vision as strategies. Tune in for the next engaging discussion of Money Talk with Melanie.
Money Talk, brought to you by MrCreditRepair.biz.
This is important because it's your money. Your money. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.